Hello, and welcome to the Maricopa County Elections May Jurisdictional Logic and Accuracy Testing. My name is Christine Deister. I'm the Deputy Director of Elections overseeing the tabulation department. We're going to start off our logic and accuracy testing with the accessible voting device tests. Go ahead and start when you're ready. So the accessible voting devices are used by voters who require some sort of accessibility accommodation, such as, those who are visually impaired can use an auditory function to hear the ballot and use a paddle, a tactile paddle, to make their selections. It also has a touch screen, so for those who may not be able to grip or hold a pen, they can use the touch screen instead to make their choices. There are also features such as the ability to enlarge the text or to do contrasting colors with a black background and white text. So those who may have slight visual impairments have the option to vote independently as well. The accessible voting devices are required by federal and state law and allow voters with disabilities to vote independently. We'll go ahead and let them continue their accessible voting device test. All right, so they are wrapping up the accessible voting device test now. The next step for our logic and accuracy testing is that we confirm that our 6 tabulators and our election management system is at 0. So the first thing we're doing is looking at a report from our election management system, confirming it is all zeros. Okay, and then I'm going to have you guys, our observers here, sign off. They're going to do their signature, date, and what party you're here representing. So whoever... if you want to go first. It's the 17th. And perfect, we have a representative from our city stepping in. Hi, welcome. I'm standing in for Scott today, so my mic is hot. If you want to, we're just doing the zero report now, and then we'll walk around and do the zeros. All right, and then I'll have you step up and confirm that this is all zero. And then Renee, if I could have you actually walk around with our wonderful observers, and you're going to make sure that each of the 6 tabulators we're using today, that they say 0 on them, and Renee will show you how to look at that. All right. Carol, I'll have you follow them. Okay. So we have 3 jurisdictions participating in this May jurisdictional election. We have the City of Tempe, which has a runoff election for the City Council. This is actually the first runoff election for the City of Tempe since 2014. So long time since they had a runoff election. We also have the Town of Guadalupe, which has a proposition on the ballot, and then the Goldfield Ranch Fire District that is reorganizing or seeking to reorganize from a 3-member board to a 5-member board. So they have 2 items on the ballot: a question asking the voters whether or not to reorganize, and then a candidate election. If the question passes, then 2 candidates would get elected to those 2 additional seats on their fire district. The total number of voters for this election is a little bit over 88,000, with the City of Tempe being the lion's share, about 85,000, the Town of Guadalupe being just under 3,000 voters, and then Goldfield Ranch Fire District coming in with a strong 277 voters. Good for them. All right. And it looks like they're wrapping up the 0 reports now. Once they're done checking the zeros on all the devices, we will go ahead and have our staff members start the tabulation of the equipment. So I'm going to ask the staff members to go ahead and take their places to get ready for tabulation, unless they've been told an instruction otherwise. But they're going to wait until they get the okay from Renee to see that all of the equipment has been noted that it is at 0 to start. And they've gotten the okay. So the next step in our logic and accuracy testing is the tabulation of the equipment, or the tabulation test. So each machine we intend to use for this election will have ballots run on it. They will have ballots for each of the 3 jurisdictions run on them. Just heads up. Each of the 6 devices that we're going to use can be used for each election. However, in order to make sure that all of the boxing is done correctly, that the City of Tempe is kept separate from the Town of Guadalupe, as they are each their own jurisdiction that will retain the ballots after the election, we will be using different devices for each jurisdiction. But they can serve as a backup for each other in case something happens. There are a total of 1,135 ballots being run through our pieces of equipment now. We are using 4 high-speed scanners called Hi-Pros and 2 Canon scanners. Another fun fact for this election is that the City of Tempe is the only jurisdiction that has both a March primary and a May general election. The City of Phoenix has a November primary election and a March general election, and every other city and town in Maricopa County holds their primary election on the same day as the statewide primary election, with the general election or runoff election being held on the same day as the statewide general election. All right, and I'm going to ask our observers actually to gather around a Hi-Pro 3. I'm going to go through our error checking deck, or quality control deck as we call it. So there are 4 different types of ballots we're going to be testing here. The first one is one that has red pen on it. We use red pen in this room as our equipment is programmed to drop out red. So therefore, it will not read this ballot as having any marks on it. The next ballot that I will be testing is something that has an error in the timing marks. Anything that is not currently for this election that has an incorrect timing mark or has a damaged timing mark cannot be counted for this election. So this one we've drawn in the timing marks, as you can see. And then this one is from the Tempe primary election. If somebody accidentally sends back their primary election ballot, we're going to demonstrate how the equipment rejects ballots for a wrong election, is what we call it. And then the last one is a simulated double feed. We've taped 2 ballots together to show that these will not be taken by the equipment. They will instead go out of the back of the device. All right. First one's the red pen. So this will get accepted by the equipment. There's nothing wrong with this ballot, it's just going to appear blank. Oops. That was my bad. Let me try that again. Because it's a batch of one, if I hold the second page and it gave me an error because it tried to do that. Okay, so one ballot, it's accepted. We're not going to see anything over here. We will see an adjudication of that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
If that were to happen when there wasn't just one ballot, would that occur if there were multiple ballots, or that it would pull in something that wasn't?
So it would just give me an error like that, and I just have to start that batch.
Rewrite the batch.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's extremely recoverable, as you saw.
Okay.
It was a operator error.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah, it was my fault.
Okay.
That's what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
All right, so this was our timing mark error. It tells me that it could not read this ballot. I can view the ballot, confirm which one it is, say, yep, that's the timing mark ballot. All right, this is going to give me the same type of error. They can't count this ballot. Okay, same exact error, tells me it can't count it. I can view the ballot, confirm that it is indeed this wrong election ballot. Okay, and then this one is going to give me a lot of errors. You're going to see an X over here. You're going to see an error over here. It's actually going to give me 2 errors over here, and the ballot's going to go out the back. Really doesn't like when it pulls in 2 ballots at the same time. So X over here. Ballots have not been accepted, and it's telling me that I should check the back. Double feed detected. And voila, double feed ballot was in the back. All right. So the next thing we're going to have our observers do is you're going to do the final numbers on all the pieces of equipment and confirm our final count. So I'm going to have you guys do that with Tessa or Renee, whoever wants to do it. All right.
And then if you'll follow me, we'll start with
And,
so.
oh no, I'll take the mic. We don't usually have the person doing numbers do the mic. Yes, I will explain what's going on. All right, so thank you for staying with us through that piece. We are going to have our observers go around and look at the different pieces of equipment now and get the final recordation of the number of ballots that were counted. This is a standard practice we do during the election as well. At the beginning and end of every shift, we check the number of ballots that are tabulated on each piece of equipment. At the end of the logic and accuracy test, we will confirm that the number of ballots that have been counted on all of the pieces of equipment combined match the results, the total number of ballots in results.
And number 3. It says 186 for ballots accepted. So we'll say 186. And we'll walk over to camera 2, which is over here. I approach you. Which is 185.
The next piece of our logic and accuracy testing will be adjudication. So as you can see, they're still looking at the 6 pieces of equipment. During a large general election, we actually have 13 pieces of equipment in this room that we need to get numbers from. So it takes a lot more time to get through all of the different devices, getting the numbers, and then the math between 13 different pieces of equipment to get the total number of ballots as well. Do we actually want to get a closer shot of this so you can see exactly what they're looking at here? So this is the central count software running on this device that reads the ballots and records how the ovals are marked. In the center here is how many ballots are in the current batch. As there's no current batch, this is 0. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, we have the total number of batches that are accepted at the top. So 2 batches were run on this device. And then we have the total number of ballots accepted in the middle there. That's what they're looking at, which is 186 for this particular device. And then at the bottom there, we have the average ballots per batch. It's not a number we use very often, just an interesting piece of trivia. We then have on the right-hand side, if we divided batches up by polling place, for example, that's an option in the software. That's not something we do, as Maricopa County is a vote center county. And these central count pieces of equipment count early ballots that come from not necessarily a voting location. We then have the batch number, which is something that's assigned by the header card that we use. And I'll show you an example of the header card. It's this device here, or this piece of paper here. It gives us a batch number. That's all it does. It's a really big, fancy piece of paper just to give us this number there. And then the throughput speed, which is 0 currently because nothing's running on it, is how fast the ballots are running. We're going to go head over and start watching adjudication now. So we're heading over to adjudication. I'm sure our observers will be following shortly. Go to that camera. All right. Okay. Our observers will be joining us shortly in adjudication. We're just waiting for them to get started. Adjudication is the process by which if a ballot is marked in such a way that the equipment cannot determine what the voter meant by it, we have humans look at the ballot instead. The most common reason for adjudication is write-ins. So the equipment can read ovals really well. It can see that an oval for a write-in line is filled in, but it cannot read the person's handwriting. That's for for our adjudication boards to do. They'd have to read the handwriting. All right, it looks like our observers are over here, so you can go ahead and get started on adjudication. All right, so like I said, the most common reason for a adjudication would be a write-in. We actually don't have any qualified write-in candidates for this election, though. So the second most common reason tends to be either an overvote or a blank ballot. So an overvote is when too many selections are made for a particular contest. So for example, City Council for Tempe is a vote for 2 contest. If you selected 3 candidates, that would be considered an overvote. So we have our bipartisan boards look at it to see if somebody made a note or a correction on their ballot to say, whoops, I didn't mean to vote for 3. Instead, I'd like to vote for 2 candidates. And then we can see which 2 candidates they wanted to vote for and make sure to make that correction for them. A blank ballot could be something somebody just sends in the ballot back. They want credit for voting, but they don't care about who or they don't care about voting for any candidates. So no contest will get counted on that. Or maybe they just didn't read the instructions, and instead of filling in the oval, they circled the candidates' names, put little check marks next to their names, or did something else to indicate how they wanted to vote that our board can see, but the equipment cannot. And then finally, another reason for adjudication is something we call a marginal mark. So this is a mark on the ballot that is not quite filling the oval enough to trigger a vote, but is filling the oval enough to trigger that there might be something in the oval. So anywhere between 14% and 33% of the oval being filled in will trigger a marginal mark on our adjudication devices. I will tell you that the oval itself is 12%. So even a little speck of dust may trigger the adjudication for a marginal mark, but we really want to be sure that somebody didn't put a very light check mark or use pencil to mark their ballot. So we want to make sure their vote is counted how they intended for it to be counted. So we're going to go ahead and watch some more of adjudication. So we have the red pen over in the far. I'm not sure if we can get an image of it. Yeah. The red pen, just as we said it would, is showing up as a blank ballot, which is how we intend it to be, because the equipment, as I said, does not read red pen, which is why we use red pens when we are marking the ballots. All right, and that is the final ballot for adjudication. We will get confirmation that we are done. right. So the team is now going to do the math for the numbers. So there's some calculators at the end of the table there. And then we will go ahead and get results. So based on the numbers that the observers saw on the equipment, they will go ahead and add those numbers together to get the total number of ballots tabulated. All right. So some information about this upcoming election that viewers may be interested to know. The deadline to register to vote is this upcoming Monday, April 20th. So if you live in Tempe, Guadalupe, or Goldfield Ranch, make sure your voter registration is up to date. You can go to maricopa.vote to learn more about that. Then ballots will be mailed out to all eligible voters for this election on April 22nd. If you damage your ballot, maybe you spilled coffee on it and you want to get a replacement ballot by mail, the last day to request that replacement ballot by mail is May 8th. We recommend if you're going to use the mail to send your ballot back, you do that by May 12th. And then May 19th is Election Day. There will be voting locations available for voters to come in person, either to drop their ballot off or to get a replacement ballot. You can find a convenient one for you at locations.maricopa.vote. If the signature on your ballot does not match your voter file, the last day to cure that signature is May 22nd, so the Friday after Election Day. If you want to learn more about how to participate in this election, you go to maricopa.vote. You can learn about voter registration, locations, and all sorts of other handy information.
And we will initial, you've already initialed here for that. And then we will have here of an accidental disclaimer that.
All right, so it looks like they're finishing up the calculation of the number of total ballots. And we'll be getting results very shortly here. Just printing them off. It looks like coming in hot from the presses.
Okay, I'll have the press.
Let's have our
two. Okay, so these are the results from today, and these are the same as the results from that over here. So you can use these to
All right, so they're going to start comparing results. They'll have one person read to them while the other person reviews them.
And so we'll have one of you read to the other, and we'll just have you read all the way down.
So, like you read this and you check this.
Yes.
So ballots passed.
Another fun fact while we are waiting for results here to be finalized. Guadalupe is the second smallest municipality in Maricopa County. The smallest municipality in Maricopa County is Gila Bend with 662 registered voters. Also, Goldfield Ranch is the first fire district to, if successful, to reorganize from 3 to 5 board members within Maricopa County. This was a citizen referral process to get on the ballot. They needed to get signatures from citizens to even go forward with a reorganization.
Okay, great. You'll both sign.
Do they match?
They match.
And we have a match.
All right.
So now we're just going to have our observers complete some paperwork, but our logic and accuracy testing for the May jurisdictional election has been successful. Like we said, the voter registration deadline is on Monday, and ballots will mail out next Wednesday. So if you live in one of those jurisdictions, check your mail. Thank you for joining us for the May jurisdictional logic and accuracy testing for Maricopa County Elections.
So we